Alrighty, welcome to the October Amherst County School Board meeting. Before we start with a moment of silence, Dr. Wells, anything?
No, sir, we're good.
Perfect. So if we could stand for a moment of silence and pledge allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I must admit, I love hearing the little ones say the Pledge of Allegiance. So, you want to unmute that one? Okay. So, we have a couple on, we're going to be calling in on phone, so there's a script I must read here, so bear with me. According to the Amherst County School Board Policy BDD, a school board member may participate from a remote location due to a medical condition or personal matter that prevents the member's physical attendance with the approval of the majority vote from the members present at the primary meeting location. In order to offer this opportunity to the remote board member, a quorum of the board must be physically present at the preliminary location, and arrangements have been made for the voice of the remote participant to be heard by all. Do we have a quorum of the board at this time?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So, Ms. Thompson, are you able to hear us?
I can.
Ms. Saunders, are you able to hear us?
I can.
Okay. So they have stated that they are able to, seeing that we have met both criteria stipulated by within the policy BDD, at this time I ask for a motion from the board that Ms. Thompson and Ms. Saunders be allowed to participate in the meeting remotely with all rights of discussion and voting afforded to them.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Seeing that the ayes have it, we welcome Ms. Thompson and Ms. Saunders, and we will make this happen. All righty. So, board. Okay. Approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to amend the agenda to have a closed session at the end of the meeting to discuss a student matter.
Okay. Okay. Motion? Okay, second. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion?
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Dr. Wells, recognitions?
Yes, sir.
Are you going to do those or somebody else? Okay.
All right, so we have, Mr. Chair, members of the board, we're going to recognize our students of the month for the month of September. And when I call your name, please come forward and we'll stand up here. And once you up here, we'll wait till everybody else gets up here and do a photo at the end. Parents, you're welcome to take pictures at the end as well once we get everybody up here. So I want to just, instead of reading everybody's 3-paragraph accolades, I'm just going to kind of summarize those really quick and just say that, you know, the words used to describe our students include trustworthiness, positive attitude, they're hard workers, they're leaders, they're polite, they're resilient, they're team players, they're dedicated, they have good attendance, they're a helper, they're a role model, they're a friend, they have good character. These are all the words that, you know, describe all of these students, and we want to recognize them tonight. So as we recognize these students, again, I ask that they come forward. I'll call their name and their school. And we want to thank them for all they do to make their classrooms and their schools a better place. So when I call your names, please come forward. From Amherst County High School, we have Lucas McFadder. Lucas here? All right, we'll go on. From Amherst Education Center, Kennedy Brown. From Amherst Middle School, Holly Llewellyn. Not with us tonight. All right. Manelson Middle School, Elena Ware. Make sure I give you the right one. Congratulations. From Amelon Elementary, Robbie Lively. From Amherst Elementary, Jacob Picard. Central Elementary, I know that she's not going to be here. Kamija Jones, she's not with us tonight. Elon Elementary School, Dion Salvador Quispe. And I hope I got that right. Madison Heights Elementary, Shuriana Jones. And from Temperance Elementary, Aiden Mays. Come on over, Mr. Terry.
All right, everybody, 1, 2, 3. And Karen's gonna come, yep, come on up. All right, Mom, I will let you go. Y'all get pictures and send them.
Good?
Great job.
Great job, everybody.
Sweet.
Next, we're going to recognize our staff members of the month. And our staff members will get a certificate. We had some of those teacher lottery tickets we had left over from we did our earlier in the year, so you'll get one of those, and plus you'll get your other gift card. So staff of the month, these are selected by the respective schools or their departments. These staff members have gone above and beyond to support their colleagues, students, schools, and ACPS. Again, words used to describe our staff include caring, a compassionate leader, calm demeanor, steady presence, makes connections, kindness, love for children, and a positive attitude. All these things are words that describe them. So as we go through these, if you're present, please come forward and you'll get your certificate and we'll take a picture. From Amherst County High School, Rebecca Picard. From Amherst Education Center, Andrew Hardy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Been a couple years, hasn't it?
I had a good coach.
Amherst Middle School, Christine Ramage. I hope I pronounced that right. Is that right? Okay. Manelson Middle School, Rebecca Childress. Amelon Elementary, McKinley Stiles. Amherst Elementary, Lauren Higgins. And I know our staff member from Central, Olivia Fernando, cannot be here as well. She is not with us this evening. Let me get these right. All right, sorry. Elon Elementary School, Lauren Butler. Madison Heights Elementary School, Caitlin Johnson. Temperance Elementary School, Akira Sandage. And last but not least, from the school administration building, this is somebody who does not like to be recognized, but we're going to, Miss Brittany McNerney.
Now who's going to take the picture?
I do want to say a couple words. No, you can get, you're in the picture. So Miss McNerney, I do just want to say a couple words, a little out. So she's been the one, since I fell, been tasked or voluntold, whatever it may be, to drive me around and make sure things are straight and when I'm not here and so forth. So I just want to thank her for everything she has done, both personally and professionally, for the school system during the past couple months when I've been kind of dealing with this concussion. So Brittany, thank you.
No relation.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to public comment. We have two people who've signed up to speak. First is Toby Thurston. Step forward, state your name and voting district or address, please.
Good evening. My name is Toby Thurston, and I live in District 1. Mr. Chair, members of the board, with fall officially here, I wanted to come tonight and personally invite each of you to the high school next weekend for the 54th annual Amherst Apple Harvest Festival. The festival is the county's longest-running tradition, and we have a lot of great things happening this year. Since taking over a few years ago, our goal has been to have more student involvement. I'm happy to say that this year we have the Lancer Nurse Aid students are hosting a blood drive during the festival. Busted Knuckle Garage students will be at our car show that Sunday. The cosmetology students will be doing the hair tinsel and berets. Art students will be doing face painting. The culinary arts students will be cooking Brunswick stew. The adaptive classes are baking and selling apple pies. All elementary school students in the division color apple designs, and we display all of them at the festival. And show choir, marching band, and theater will be performing. These students are working hard to raise funds at the festival, and they have incredible support from their teachers. This year, we also have the Amherst County Sheriff's Office doing Dunk a Deputy to raise money for DARE. They are recruiting SROs, deputies, and teachers, but I'm sure they would love a few board members in the tank as well. So if any of you would like to get in the tank to raise money for DARE, let me know. Along with 160 vendors to shop from, I invite you to come out October 18th and 19th to support the students. Thank you.
I just want to go on record that I'm playing music at the car show. I can't go in the dunk booth. Sorry.
I'm sure I can think of a reason why I can't.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Porter.
There we go. I am Jeff Porter, 478 Woody's Lake Road, Madison Heights, Virginia, District 5. I'd like to speak on a couple of issues. One is I really would like to encourage the community to really consider the opportunities that this board offers to come and be in attendance at these meetings, to hear what's going on, and to interact with people who are here from the school board as well as from the school district. It's important to have involvement. And one of the ways that I think maybe we could help the public be a little bit more involved would be in the area of the upcoming school budget. It seems, at least from an outsider's point of view, that there's so much that's already set in the budget, and it would be good to be able to know what areas that we really could have as public for having input on how the budget's shaped. And if we could have that kind of information, I think that would be helpful and would encourage participation. Secondly, at the public hearing that you all had back in September on the 25th concerning the cell phone tower, I learned a lot from that meeting. That's part of the reason why I come to these meetings, because I have much to learn. And so I'm grateful for Eric coming up to me after the meeting and help me to understand some of the terminologies that I could use in a more correct manner. But also, I want to say that in regards to the cell phone tower, two things. One is I am opposed to it, and I am opposed because of health reasons for it. And secondly, because I think that it's important, because you all are going to be talking about it this evening, to be able to hear from each board member, particularly from those who are attending this via phone, for us as public to be able to hear your comments. So I would ask that you would make every effort to speak clearly, distinctly, so that we can hear how you look at this issue. This is an important one. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So those are the only two we had signed up ahead of time. Is anyone else from the audience who would like to address the board? Okay. Well, seeing none, we will move on. 4.0, action item.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Bring forward to you the memo B, which was from the policy updates. You received these last month. These are the ones that we had adapted and made a few changes to in our committee. And we brought them to you as a first read last month, and they'll come as a second read tonight, and I ask that you approve if you see so fit.
Board, any discussion on the policies that are brought forth? Okay. Anything? Sure. Yes, ma'am?
I just wanted to reiterate again how much I appreciate the administration meeting with the policy committee and having open dialogue. I want to bring special attention to the policy, GCDA, effective criminal conviction or found in complaint of child abuse or neglect. Through the diligent work of the committee, we were able to take some components of the VSBA policy that was suggested and add it to our current ACPS policy, making it more tighter in the requirements. So I just wanted to say I really appreciated that. I appreciated the GC part-time and substitute professional staff employment. It gave greater versatility for our substitutes to be in the classroom for a longevity, so you don't have to have like two substitutes in the same classroom because the 90 days are up. So that helps our students have greater continuity of instruction. And just thankful for
Okay.
the.
Any other comments, board? Okay, can I have a motion?
I move that we approve the policy changes as presented in Memo B.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Dr. Wells? Good.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the board, next we have the Verizon Wireless Tower contract. The past several months, you've been given information regarding the Verizon Wireless Tower. Last month, Verizon conducted the balloon test, and we held a community meeting to hear from members of the county. At that meeting, we had 2 residents speak, one in favor and one opposed. We also conducted a survey that ran from September 15th to September 26th. The results were as follows. There are 46 responses. 34 were in favor, which is 73.9%. 10 were opposed, which is 21.7%, and 2 are undecided at 4.3%. I believe we've had much discussion on this topic. I would ask the board to vote tonight on whether or not to approve the contract.
Okay. Okay, board, from a request from an audience member, they would like to hear, how we feel about things. So, Mr. Rossi, would like to start off?
Yeah, obviously, cell towers are here to stay, at least until they come up with a better technology. That being said, do they belong on school property? Zoning already does not allow them in residential areas. Why is that, is my question. Why don't they allow them in residential area? Is it simply because of aesthetics? I know subdivisions from time to time have empty lots, but they don't allow them in residential areas. Me personally, I live in this particular area. I know cell service is lacking there. I would have liked a lot more community involvement because it does impact every student that'll be going to our school. And I think maybe if we approve it tonight and it moves on to the next step, which would be the county level approval, even if we say yes, the county can still shoot it down. So just by us voting tonight doesn't mean that it'll happen. I kind of want this to spark more engagement with the community. At the county level, I think that not approving it here would just, the entire community would not have an opportunity to speak on it. And it seems to me like more people get involved when it gets a little spicy. And I think we're at that point now where I think it would be great to have more community engagement on the topic. So as it's presented, I would support it right now to move it on to the county level for more community involvement.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Justice?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So I've said from the beginning that one of my big concerns about having a cell phone tower on school property is that a school is a place of compulsory education. That means if a quarter of the parents at our school do not feel that a cell tower is healthy for their student, the only option they have is to remove their student from the school. And so I am concerned that that would place some parents in a very difficult position. Second, if we put a cell phone tower on this school property, what is to stop there being cell towers on other school properties in our district? Sorry. I had a third point, but it's gone now. I remember it, thankfully. My understanding is that if the board were to pass this and it was to go before the county, my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that according to code, the county is not allowed to include health concerns in their decision-making process. Only the school board is allowed to make that a consideration. So that concerns me. Thank you.
Ms. Ligon, you want?
Oh, yes, thank you, sir. Is that when we started this conversation some months ago, I believe I said that I want to rephrase, I would never say I don't care what we do, but I'm going to abstain from yes or no. I was at the public hearing that we conducted, and I would have liked to see more people there, of course. So then I read the comments from those who wrote in. So I'm not making a judgment on that at all, because I just don't think it was a big enough population to say yes or no. I'm not going to speak on the health of it, because that's not in my jurisdiction, because if I said it was no harm and then something, so here I am. I'm going to abstain from this and hope it goes whichever way is the best.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Saunders, I'd like to hear from you if you could.
Sure. You guys hear me okay?
Yes.
I have heard the concerns, but I also had a parent who has a student at Manelson who reached out to me last night who said that safety should be one of our concerns. Mr. Holmes, the principal of Manelson, does not get cell service outside of his office. So I understand the health concerns, but also safety should be one of our biggest concerns as well. There's a lot more school shootings than there are fires on cell towers. So with that, I'm voting yes. And then it will go to the county and then to the Board of Supervisors for final decision.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Thompson, can you weigh in, please?
Oh, yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I really appreciate the comments so far. I think that listening to the community with the survey, that we have a good portion, what do we say, almost 22% that weighed in that were opposed to the cell tower, and the majority of those listed lots of links about health concerns. I believe that Mrs. Justice is correct, that if the school board does move the cell tower forward, the next step does go to the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. But the conversation about health concerns is not something that they are allowed by law to consider. So for me, as a board member, my first duty is to our students in our schools, and in particular, our students at Manelson. And I am aligned with Mrs. Justice in that, with it being compulsory education, that I feel that we have a good portion of the responses that have some concerns about health issues. This is the only place that we can consider that. And when I did my research, it's very difficult. Some show that there are some concerns, some show that there's not. So where do you place your understanding? And so my take is that, since my duty is to our students, and if there is enough concern about health issues, I have to be in that stopgap and ask, is the school property the right place? So if our community needs additional service, which I believe they do, I believe there's enough places and locations that they can put a cell tower, whether it be on the electrical towers, or whether it's on the ball field, or whether it's in the on top of Walmart. I don't know. This may be the ideal location for Verizon, but for me, with 22% of our survey showing that there's concerns for health, I would be a no on this.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Childress?
Certainly. So, we had the public hearing, had the comments, the majority of those are in favor of the tower. And I would probably also suggest that everybody that attended it and the people here tonight all have cell phones in their pockets as well. And then when we think about the safety concern, and potentially putting it, if we didn't do it, and the baseball, it went out towards the baseball field, it would actually be closer to our students, right? Because right now, we're talking about it being 800 feet away. If it went down towards the baseball field, it's going to be 300 feet away. So if that's the next logical location for it to go, wouldn't it make sense for us to put it further away? If, that being a legitimate concern. So with that in mind, my vote will be to approve.
Okay, thank you. So I think everybody here, has valid points. There's nobody who wants to put the kids in harm's way. I did go to the public forum, heard Verizon's input, heard the parents or the speakers who spoke for and against. I do live in one of those areas where it is tough to get cell service. I live in a dry zone, so it's rather tough. I know the struggle for people who live in that situation. I don't think it can go any further. If we don't vote yes for it, it can't let the public make any further decisions. So I would be in favor of having the tower. So from here, we need a
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the contract with Verizon.
okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Okay. So board, we have a motion and a second. We've just had discussion, so I believe we're beyond that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, sorry. Which one was that?
Just a
Oh.
quick,
Abby.
yeah, this is Mrs. Thompson.
Okay.
Yes. Just a quick note.
Yes, ma'am.
If my recollection serves me right, there was a previous contract that was written with Milestone years ago that gave them exclusive rights. So that might be something to be considered before any signature goes on this particular document.
Okay. Just
a point to note.
okay. Okay. What is
Whether that one's been rescinded or not.
everybody here is kind of looking around, going,
No, other companies they can put other companies on that tower. Is that the
Okay.
question?
Ms. Thompson, your question is, can other companies
Well,
use
it's
it?
not a question. It's not a question.
Okay.
Is if we move forward.
Yes.
And you do vote to approve this.
Yes.
Before you actually sign it and accept it, we need to make sure that any previous contract that gave exclusive rights to cell towers on school properties has been rescinded before we have two contracts,
Okay, understood.
Okay.
is all I'm saying.
Dr. Wells, he's not, he understands what you're saying there.
Ms. Thompson, when would
Okay.
that have taken place? When would the school board have voted for that?
That would have been at the Elon Tower.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll
Dr. Wells,
we'll
you'll
do our
take care
due
of that?
diligence. Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Ms. Thompson. Dr. Wells said he would
You're welcome.
make sure that's taken care of. Okay. Any further discussion, board?
Mr. Chair, I do have one comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Childress, with all due respect, I do want to disagree just a little bit about the logic of the cell tower. If we don't put it in our property, that it would be closer to the students. First, we don't know where an alternate tower would be located. And so we can't go, from my mind, and say that, well, if it's 300 feet away, that it's going to be closer, because we just don't know where it would be. That's all.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I can let you know it was 2015 when the Milestone Communications contract would have been considered.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Board, anything else? Okay, so board, we have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so we have 2 opposed,
I'm just
1
abstaining.
abstained, and
4 in
4
favor.
4.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
4, yeah. Can't do my math. Okay. All righty. Dr. Wells, consent agenda.
I'd ask you to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Board?
Move for approval, Mr. Chair, on the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All in favor of approving the consent agenda? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Number 6.
Next, we have our school board reps. We'll turn it over to them.
There you go.
Sorry. Okay, so we're just going to give a synopsis of what has happened at the high school since the last meeting. So actually tonight, our freshman class has had the opportunity to participate in a special production. It is called The Freshman Takeover. It's a production directed by freshmen and co-directed by one of our history teachers, Mrs. Saunders, but it's completely made up of freshmen and directed by freshmen also. This is also the first production in the new auditorium. It was a great chance for new students to step into leadership and creative roles early on. We also held another one of our senior breakfasts where a representative from Jostens came to share important information about caps, gowns, class rings, and other class of 2026 souvenirs. We also had a lot of excitement for the week of our big game and dance, the homecoming game. We held a spirit week leading up to homecoming, and the participation was outstanding. We had so many students and faculty dressing up and showing their school pride that the senior council took over 300 photos of participants. The homecoming dance took place Friday, September 26th, right after the football game. We had 4 generous convertible owners that drove members of our homecoming court around the track before they walked to the center of the field where this year's winners were announced. Afterwards, students enjoyed a fun and relaxed homecoming celebration in our beautiful new cafeteria, complete with pizza, drinks, and floats. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Homecoming this year was a different experience for everyone. I talked to a lot of the students. They said they loved that homecoming was hosted inside the new cafeteria. They said they just loved it a lot more than it being in the old auxiliary gym. Looking ahead, we have a movie night on the football field on the 22nd. We'll be watching Hocus Pocus, by the way.
Awesome.
We're also charging a bag of candy per entry, and that bag of candy is going to go towards our trunk or treat that will be hosted on the 26th. That way, you know, we can save us some money and just use the donated candy for it. Also, we have a senior tailgate that is going to be next Friday. We're just going to hang out and enjoy some time together before kickoff. All seniors are welcome to come and enjoy some food and games together. And that's all we have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you have to let Ms. Saunders know that I'm disappointed that it's tonight because I love coming to those, especially the freshman takeover. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So. All righty. 7.0.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, members of the board, we will have a presentation by Mr. Neighbors with our instructional team here on the data presentation on SOL. So turn it over to Mr. Neighbors.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. A couple of caveats this evening before we get launched into our presentation. The word data does appear in the title, but I would be remiss if I didn't communicate to the board that we are disappointed at the level of data that we've received to this point in the calendar from the state. We currently don't have anything that is publicly available for release. We have sent you what we've received at this point. So we're going to talk a lot tonight about the framework, the new system, all the different components that are kind of behind the scenes to that. We are very hopeful that later this week, and probably meaning Saturday or Sunday, we'll receive some additional supports for our consumption that we will share for the board. And hopefully next week is when we're expecting public release of that data. So I wanted to provide that clarity at the outset. Yes, data is in the title, but unfortunately we're a little data light with the presentation this evening. All right, quick look at the agenda. Several items that we're going to look at here tonight. Really want to give that background, as I mentioned before, and then talk a little bit about where we are and where we think we need to be headed as we are going forward. Also, in the interest of time, Dr. Wells has asked me to be efficient with my presentation this evening, but please jump in at any point if you have any questions. As the board is aware, we have had some changes to our accountability system, provided a bit of a timeline here. So a little over a year ago, the board voted to make those changes. We've kind of been going through some different components of that process since, leading up to our release, or what we hope will be our release here very, very soon of public data. I will say this is one of the few things I will be encouraged by out of VDOE. I do feel like there's components of this new framework that are good, that are more representative of all of our students, and ultimately I think give us a better picture of where our schools are and how they're functioning. A little bit of a primer here before and after. So prior to this school year, I think we're all very familiar with what that reporting looked like, very, very much based on that overall pass-fail component. Did our students pass the test or not? Some other pieces certainly factored into that, but that had always been that cornerstone piece. Still very much primary in regards to the current data, but much more comprehensive in regards to how they're looking at it now. The biggest change, and they've been using that $10 word bifurcation at the state, separated out this idea of accreditation and accountability, and we'll kind of go through as we're reviewing this evening exactly what that looks like. But separating those pieces out, really providing us a much more in-depth framework of how our schools are performing and what that looks like for our students. So starting this year and moving forward, all of our schools and all the schools across the state of Virginia will be receiving a couple of different designations. So first and foremost, we'll still see that accreditation designations. That's kind of what we're used to from previous systems. That still exists, and as we'll talk about here in just a little bit, that represents that we're following the rules, that we're doing everything we're supposed to do by code, we're reporting our data accurately and in a timely fashion, all the things that we're required to do as a school system, as individual buildings, we're checking those boxes. Accountability is where we get into what we're typically associating with these types of presentations. How are our students performing on the SOL assessments? Where are we at from an absenteeism standpoint? Are they graduating on time? Are they taking the coursework we want them to take? And within that accountability structure, they're going to get a score on that framework 0 to 100. We'll talk about what that means, as well as a performance category, which we'll also get a little more in depth into. So each of our schools, as we'll see hopefully on these reports that we receive over the next several days, will have each of these designations as a part of it. We're going to talk a little more about federal identification as we go through the presentation. That is also information that we are hoping to receive, at least what we've been told from the state, as these summary reports are available in the next several days. So from an accreditation standpoint, just wanted to provide a quick look here, very similar to what we've seen in the past in regards to the words that they are using, but this now has nothing to do with student performance on SOLs. We're kind of used to that being the verbiage. They've taken that to the other side, and this really is, are we following the things and doing all the stuff we're supposed to as it relates to our requirements under code, as it relates to our requirements for data reporting to the state. And they've given us nice little visuals on what that looks like here. We report a couple of times a year to get that information in, and I wanted to provide the board a listing here. These are the 10 pieces that are straight out of Virginia code that accreditation connects to. So when we complete those data reports, when we complete those surveys to the state, all of that's going into these different categories, verifying that we're doing what we're supposed to, not just as a school division, but as individual schools as well. From an accountability standpoint, this is the big change this year and what this framework looks like. Ultimately, that mastery component, where our students fell in passing or failing the test, is still very, very important, but it's much more comprehensive. All of our students, even those that did not pass, still count, is the word we are using, towards scores within this framework. They are recognized within this framework, and ultimately how our schools are designated as a result of that. And there are still a number of components that go in beyond performance on the SOLs, again, things that we're used to in regards to absenteeism, graduation rates, and the few others that we'll talk about that have been added in, again, I think in a positive way as we go through. So one more look here, a little side-by-side comparison. I've actually appreciated these charts from the state, kind of giving us a visual grounding of what all that looks like, but a true separation of these different ratings, these different processes. Each school will have a rating based on these two new systems, but definitely an attempt to separate what is accreditation and what is accountability for the purposes of identifying our schools. All right, and I'm going to keep on rolling if nobody has any questions at this point. So the framework itself, thinking about accountability, You'll notice at each of our levels, there's different weights provided to different areas. So mastery, that's where we're really thinking about performance on the SOLs. Where did our students fall with reading, math, and science? And again, doesn't matter if they passed or failed, all students factor into the ultimate score with that. This is also where we see some data related to our students that are English learners. We'll talk a little bit about the impacts of that here in just a few minutes. For elementary and middle, we still have that growth component being a significant piece of the framework, as well as readiness. That's where we find our chronic absenteeism, and for middle school, advanced coursework. I'll note for the high school, you don't see that green portion of the band. Growth doesn't come into play at that particular level. We see much more of that emphasis on readiness. We'll talk about the different pieces of that here in just a bit, as well as much more emphasis on graduation, as you would expect at that level. To further break that down, all the different pieces I was talking about there, I wanted to be able to provide the board this visual from the state. What are those different pieces that go into those different components of the framework, and ultimately, how is that factoring into how our schools receive that framework score of 0 to 100, and ultimately that credit, the designation they receive as a part of that performance framework. You can see there elementary and middle, as we discussed, as well as all those components that go into high school. I will pause here for a moment, and what I appreciate about how the state has rolled this out for a framework when we're looking at readiness, especially at the high school level, moving beyond the simple view of whether or not students pass or failed an SOL. Are they really doing all the things that are appropriate for them to be doing at this level to actually be ready when they walk out the door, and factoring in all of those pieces? I feel like it's a much more comprehensive, much more appropriate view of whether or not we're preparing our students for what they need to be doing after graduation. To get into the math here just a little bit, I do want to provide the board a little more context. So when I'm referring to all of our students are going to count, for lack of a better word. All of our students get factored in to these calculations that occur. You'll notice in the left-hand diagram there, wherever a student may fall, and this is specific to elementary, within that range of passing or failing, they're going to provide a point value that gets factored into the framework. So even if they fell below that passing threshold, there is still credit awarded, you might say, within that framework score for those students. Appropriately, that's graduated at those different levels. But at the end of the day, I think it's important for the board, for the public, for everyone to be aware that all truly means all in this. All students factor in when we're calculating our mastery score for each of our school levels. Important to note here, as we get into our upper levels, especially with high school, that bottom area there, the 0.25 comes off. If you fall below that passing range, it's a 0.75. So the only difference there, especially at high school. You'll notice the same for growth, and we'll talk a little bit about growth calculations here in just a bit, but ultimately those different levels, whether or not a student hit expected growth, may have been above, may have been below. There's also different levels of point valuations for that, trying to be a little more comprehensive with that view and understanding not every student may hit that particular threshold. How are we still looking at it from a credit standpoint and factoring that into the calculations for each of our kiddos? For the high school, digging a little more to what this concept of readiness, and again, this is something I appreciate about what the state has rolled out. The 3 E's, the things that we want to see our students progressing in the different categories from a readiness perspective, looking at all the different activities, the different decisions that students and families are making that are accounted for in this framework and awarded credit for. I will draw the board's attention, we're talking about enlistment, that ASVAB assessment, not just one of the reasons we've talked about that rolling out. It's a very valuable assessment, gives us a lot of information from a pre-vocational standpoint, but it also is credit, so to speak, within this particular framework. It's an opportunity for students to participate in that, for us to get some additional data, but also increase that readiness score within our school framework. So the state has really looked for ways and opportunities to bring more of that comprehensive view in and make sure that's being recognized as schools are receiving those framework scores and designations. One more time, because 3, I think, is the charm with this breakdown of the different framework components and what goes into it, the different percentages involved in those components for different levels. Again, mastery continues to be a significant component, but much more holistic, you might say, than in previous years with how that's being tabulated. You saw earlier we were referring to performance categories. So in addition to that framework score, or I should say based on that framework score, each school will have a performance category awarded to them. So 90 and above would be distinguished, 80 to 89 on track, 65 to 79 off track, below that needing intensive support. As you'll see here in just a little bit, the schools that we'll be referring to here in Amherst County all fall within those first three boxes, which we are glad to see, and that no one's falling in that needs intensive support category. I do want to caveat here for the board that there is an automatic component. If federal identification comes into play, the score does not change, but the category is automatically reduced by 1. So as we're looking at our projected data tonight, that is something that we'll be monitoring as we get those additional reports. That federal identification would result in a change to the performance category. And with that, just another quick primer here in regards to federal ID. ATSI, which is a category that we have not experienced here lately in Amherst County, that will not be recalculated until 2028, so we won't see that on any of the reports. The 3 schools that were federal identified last year were in that yellow column, TSI. And again, this is data that we expect to see as a part of those summary reports. Once those reports are received, if we do have schools with federal identification, that's information that will be coming back to the board. We'll be talking about the implications of that, what our plans are going forward to support that school or those schools as would be appropriate with that data.
Do we anticipate any coming in?
We are extremely hopeful that that will not be the case. I would say cautiously optimistic with that. At this point, we have been planning for and supporting schools as though that would continue into this year. Looking at the data, there's a very strong chance that we've got at least 1 or 2 of them coming out. I would not be transparent with the board and say I'd be surprised if we didn't have at least 1 in that category, but I do expect it'll be different from what we had last
But
year.
that's based on what the other schools do. See, there's no magic number says if you score here, you're automatically in there. You have to do that comparison to make sure your scores, if you go back, Josh, real quick. If you go under where any school with 1 or more underperforming student groups scoring below the highest performing CSI school. So if there's a school that's in CSI and one of our groups drops below where they scored, then that school could theoretically be in there. So it's not a, we have to wait until the state does their tabulations to know if we'll have one in there or not.
We do, and that comparative data does change. Last year, there was a threshold established. The threshold changed unexpectedly, and that's actually when our 3 schools came into play with that. So we're going to continue to monitor. And again, they're telling us when those summary reports come out, that'll be the final determinations, but we'll continue to monitor that and let you know. All right, so before we jump into the data, just wanted to pause for a moment. That was a whole lot really quick. If there are any questions from the board at this point.
Board, any questions?
Mr. Terry?
Yes, sir.
So I'm trying to, we have the outline of what state wants us to do.
Mm-hmm.
We have information from them on how they're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We have scores. We have data because we've sent it to them. Right? So why do we need the state to do the calculation? Is there no way for us to figure it out on our own? It's kind of like doing your taxes. It's like the government already knows how much you owe. I don't know why you got to go to a tax attorney. So have you got that information? Do we know where we're at? Obviously, you have some idea because you just talked about the 1 school.
Yeah.
Maybe 2.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you where we are from a broad perspective here in just a minute in regards to what we've been able to calculate based on what we know from a data standpoint, but also what the state has released. The issue with the federal identification is because that is comparative, and we don't know everybody else's data, we're not sure where we're going to fall with that. So depending upon where other schools or particular groups in schools perform, that would determine whether or not we actually meet the criteria to be federally identified. That's what makes that a little more difficult. Growth is also included in that where they have our data, and again, transparently, it kind of goes into a black box. We're not quite sure what happens with that algorithm. It gets spit out on the other side. That is one where we have some questions. Aside from those, we have a pretty solid idea of where we stand, and we've been able to verify most of the data we were able to share with the board here just in the last couple of days, those reports that we received.
And as far as like accreditation, that has to do with entering your data on time and giving them their information on time. So do they lose a step accreditation by delaying your data back? I mean, is there recourse for that? Is there accountability from the state for that?
It'd be nice.
I would be
I'm
happy
just
to make that suggestion.
throwing that out there.
Absolutely, sir. Yeah, Absolutely, yeah. And we are I'm glad, I guess is the right word, that they have separated out that process from an accreditation standpoint. A lot of that is the data reporting that we're doing on an near constant basis up here, but then they also ask us to self-verify and collect that evidence. Are we doing all those things that we need to? But I would be happy to pass that suggestion along next time we talk to
There we
you.
go.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
Board, any other questions? Okay.
All right.
Neighbors.
All right. So before we get to the next slide here, I do just want to emphasize a couple of pieces. So number one, this is not anything that we've received from the state. So we have not received a framework score for each school. We have not received a category for each school. This is based on our calculations. We have based that in part on data we received from the state. Since that data is still embargoed, and since, quite frankly, they are still working on verifying that data, we have done our work to project what we believe we'll receive when these summary reports come out. But because this is us and we created it, we're sharing it with you all and publicly tonight because it's our data, not the state's data. So looking at where we have projected that our schools will fall, each of our schools listed there, you'll see that framework score out of 100, so 0 to 100. Is the scale there. And as we talked about a few minutes ago, those different performance categories are based off of that score. So all the different components that we've been talking about under mastery, so thinking about our reading performance, math performance, science performance, the growth indicators that we have, how we're doing with chronic absenteeism, advanced coursework, the 3E readiness framework, all of those, all that data goes into a formula, results in numbers at the end of the equation that gets added up, and that's where we get that framework score. So based on that, we are very excited and hopeful, again, to see that we'll get that report from the state as the high school being distinguished. The majority of the rest of our schools, we are looking at an on-track designation, so that 80 to 89 score range, and several of our schools falling just below and off track. I will note here for Madison Heights specifically, we were right outside of that on-track category there. And looking at the framework and we've been able to calculate, we are able to identify those areas from a framework standpoint where work can be done to get up into that green category, to get on track with that. Obviously understanding that beyond those two schools, Central Elementary School, we're going to continue to work to get stronger within that off-track category and where we need to be on track. But again, our initial calculations here, we wanted to be able to share that with the board in the absence of summary reports, but very glad to see aspects of that data. But as usually the case, we know there's still work to be done on some of those pieces. All right, before I move off of here, we'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. Neighbors,
Yes, ma'am.
if I'm understanding this correctly, when we're looking at the preliminary data review, you went in and you took our data that we have from our students from last year and you inputted it into the basic formula that we have been given as far as a framework to estimate approximately where our schools will be. Is that correct?
That is correct, with one tweak. So we used our data to verify the data that the state had sent us to make sure it matched up with what we had, and then we did that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Board, anything else? Okay.
All right. So looking at where we are, where we've been, and where we're headed from here, obviously once we receive our summary reports, and especially looking at those federal designations, if that does come into play, there's going to be some additional conversation, some additional evaluation of resources and needed support, but wanted to give the board an overview of what that's looking like so far this year. So an important piece for us, and this started all the way back in May and into June, looking at who we want to be, how we want to operate, what does it mean to be instructional leaders here in Amherst County Public School. And a lot of what we've been talking about, which is fed directly into this new framework, this concept of all means all. What are we doing to make sure that all of our students, just like our mission and vision says, every child, every day, how are we making sure that we embody that in our practices instructionally and really working to make sure every student has what they need. We want to make sure that from a process standpoint, working with our administrators and teachers, that we are targeting the right things. We want to be able to focus on student learning. We want to have that collaborative culture and support each other. We want to make sure that we're constantly looking at those results and we're getting where we need to get to with each and every one of our students. And the messaging here that Dr. Wells kicked off in July at the leadership conference about having those strong foundations and moving forward together has really been our lighthouse as we've gone through and here into the school year. So a little bit of background on our timeline here. I went out in May after I was initially announced, did my world tour, got around to all the schools, met with a good number of our staff members. We needed to know how things were going. We needed to understand from their perspective what's working, what's not. What do we need to look at differently? How do we bring that perspective into our direct planning and how we're making decisions for instruction here in Amherst County? That rolled directly into a number of conversations with our full leadership team, not just here at the school board level, but all our building administration, all of our folks working in schools and leadership capacities to really talk through where are we, where do we need to go, what's working, what's not, how do we make sure that everything we have in place is working for what we know we need to do for our students. All of that channeled into recommendations. There was a collaborative agreement amongst that entire group about where we need to be, rolled straight into our July leadership conference where all of those pieces were launched, and then into each of our schools here in the fall at the beginning of the school year, really endeavoring at every single step to make sure that we have the voice of our teachers, of our administrators, that we have that collaborative consensus, that agreement, and we're all collectively committing to those same things. Ultimately, the efficiency of our processes, the focus and intent of our processes were the beneficiary of that. We're able to see things are actually moving forward the way that we need to, and ultimately the response that we've received, at least early, from staff, from administrators, has been very positive with that. We've used their voice, we've used what they've told us is working and not, and trying to make sure those processes are where they need to be. With those, and put some different pieces in place here for the board to be able to look at. We want to be moving to action. We want to be streamlining. We want to be honoring our folks' time and their voice and their ability to work together and support each other, being able to make sure that every single one of the things we're putting into place is doing everything we need it to do. Not going to read all the bullets here for the board, but I did want to call attention to a couple of pieces there at the bottom. So ultimately, we're constantly getting that feedback, be it through our administrative teams, our participation in those PLC meetings each week, being out in buildings, having those conversations. We want to know what we have out there is working and that our teachers have the resources and support they need to be able to move forward with their students. A big part of that is them understanding the menu of supports available to them and giving them the opportunity to select those for themselves. Our tool there that's linked at the bottom, and I'll be happy to send the board a copy of that. It's a very unfortunate acronym. DITS is the name of that. We're working on some different names and are happy to take some suggestions on that if the board has it. But essentially providing a menu to our administrators. These are things that are available to you. What do you need for your school? How can we support you? How can we support your staff in a way that's going to match up with what they need? So aside from the title there, good response initially from that tool and ultimately making them a much bigger part of that planning process where they need to be. The next few slides I've outlined for the board some of the things that are already at play in regards to those resources and supports in place. We do feel like we have done well to allocate those resources strategically and make sure we've got technical assistance where that's needed. A lot of good feedback from staff and administrators on that here in the first part of the year. But we've emphasized, just like with the tool that we just talked about a moment ago, we want this to be fluid, we want this to be responsive, we want to keep those conversations going to make sure the resources we have in place are meeting the mark in the way that we need to. So with instructional support there, the different components, the one piece I will highlight above all else, we've really re-envisioned that liaison relationship this year. So each member of our instructional team here at School Board Office has a school that they are designated to. The goal is really to integrate in, not somebody from School Board Office coming in and being big brother, so to speak, to be alongside, provide those resources and support to know what's happening so that we can allocate the necessary resources to be able to support and move forward. In addition to the next couple of slides, again, I won't go through all the different pieces, but wanted the board to be aware all the various resources and initiatives that are in place for literacy, for math, for science, a lot of different pieces at play, a lot of different resources in the field to be able to support our teachers and move our students forward. And then again, here, talking about that liaison relationship, the different pieces that we're already engaged with, already getting that positive response. And again, it looks a little bit different from a support standpoint this year. How are we coming alongside our staff, working with them where they are to make sure they have the resources they need to move forward? All right, so what's next and where are we going to be? A couple of different pieces coming out. We've already mentioned a couple of times. Here in the next several days, we expect to receive those preliminary summary reports from the state. That'll give us what they have initially for that framework score, for the performance category, but then also for federal identification. We want to be able to see that and know where we are and how that might be able to move us forward or change our course a bit with some of those schools if that's necessary. We're anticipating public data release sometime next week. They told us we're going to get about a week with the data, and so I'm hoping that tomorrow is the day where they actually release those pieces. We'll see if that happens or not, but roughly a week after we receive those reports is when the public data release is supposed to occur. That will include school quality profiles on the VDOE website, and we'll be pushing all that out from a public standpoint, making sure everyone is aware of where we stand and how our schools are looking for 24-25 data. Beyond that, we're going to talk about here in just a minute the new cut scores that have been approved by the state. We are expecting further guidance at the end of the month, exactly what implementation looks like with that, understanding that there is an impact there, looking at towards the end of this year and beyond. We want to understand exactly from the state's perspective what that's going to look like and how we need to make sure we're equipping all of our staff to be ready for that and understand it. All right. And I'm going to pause here before we jump into cut scores and answer any questions the board might have.
Board, any question? Yes, sir.
So 6 slides back on the instructional program goals for 25-26. The first thing that came to mind as I was kind of going through those and listening on the goal of collaborative culture and collective commitments, consistency
Yes,
came
sir.
to mind.
Yes, sir.
Because I'm reading review and revisions of instructional expectations. I'm assuming that we're going to have some consistency there with those expectations. We're not going to be moving the goalpost
That is correct.
for our staff.
Yes, sir. And I do want to emphasize there, even with this data coming out, and I think I made the comment yesterday in our 2x2 meetings with Ms. Justice and Ms. Thompson, the state's going to tell us what they're going to tell us here in the next several days. The decisions that we all came to over the summer that we thought were best for kids are just as true today as they were then. Even when we get these additional reports from the state, we feel like the course we're on is the appropriate one. The feedback we received from staff so far is confirming that, so no reason to change course. I'm not going to say regardless of, but at this point, that's where I am. We feel like we've got those things in place, and consistency is a huge piece.
Yeah,
Correct.
for sure.
Yeah.
And then the other one was on the results oriented, teacher and administrators to determine supports. What data are we using when we talk about results oriented?
Mm-hmm.
What results? Like, what are we using to determine success when we talk about the supports, and how are we determining what supports? I mean, you listed a whole bunch up there, so I appreciate that, but
Absolutely.
how are we determining using what results?
Absolutely. So at this point, when we're talking about process implementation, that's that feedback we're receiving directly from staff, from teachers, from administrators. Are the things and pieces we have in place actually producing measurable results from students? So when we're looking at that intervention data, when we're looking at the results of the assessments that we're doing, whether they're common or otherwise for each individual teacher, are the resources we have in play, are the processes we have in play actually helping with that? And some of that's anecdotal directly from the staff themselves, which we want that feedback and we want to see it. But can we see that progress being made with our kiddos that are engaged in those intervention structures?
And that's the piece I was trying to drag out,
Yeah.
is the teacher themselves having direct input into that.
Yes, sir.
Because,
Yeah.
back when I was in school, we didn't have all these reports and data. It was really
That's
the
right.
teacher that determined, that said what I was really needed support in. Now, I'm a data guy. I like data. I like
Sure.
technology.
Yeah.
But I also know that our teachers know our kids best, and they
Yeah.
really need to be the front runner in determining what supports they need. And that brings me to my final comment on that was, in talking about the new approach with the liaisons, pushing into the buildings. I'm very happy to hear that, because a lot of the complaints that I've heard over the past was that you guys are providing support, but they didn't see it as support. They saw it as another admin coming in their building and saying, this is what you're doing wrong, right? That's not a good level of support. Right? And so what they need is people to come in and help them be the boots on the ground. And it sounds like that's the approach that I think we're taking.
Yes, sir.
And I want to highly encourage that. So thank you.
Yeah, and the word there has been responsiveness, right? And I've found in a long time as a teacher, as a coach, providing technical assistance to if I'm there in the meetings, if I'm having those conversations, I'm able to understand where the needs are and move much more quickly to provide that support if it's needed, or to work with the administration team to be able to do that. And that's really been the goal. Are we in there enough and consistently to be able to understand where that is and provide that support as needed? That's been the goal, for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Board, any other questions?
Mr. Terry?
Yes, sir.
So you went back, I don't know what slide it was, but you had conversations with teachers.
Yes, sir.
And building staff. And the fact that you bring them in on this is very, very important, because we have heard complaints. And out of those conversations, was there one common point of failure that you heard most complaints about? Was there the one common thing, or was it multiple things? And did you hear anything that surprised you that you didn't expect to hear?
Yeah, I expected to hear things that surprised me, I'll be honest with you, but in general, it was consistent with communication that we had received and even conversations we had had, even on Thursdays as part of the board meeting. The themes, I guess I will say, of it, and there was a lot of conversations with a lot of different folks, all the pieces that we were highlighting just a moment ago, the consistency of approach, the consistency of communication, the involvement, and really understanding the day-to-day of what's going on within those classrooms. I can't sit and say that there wasn't understanding of that, but sometimes that gets lost in the way that things are communicated or the way that things are perceived, and that cuts both ways. And being aware of that, I think, is very, very important. Having them have such a substantial voice in what this change has looked like. We knew we were at a pivot point. We knew there was going to be change this year. To me, I couldn't have imagined jumping into this with my team without having that perspective first and foremost, right, to really understand what those pieces are. And I felt like that process was addressing a lot of those themes that I was hearing. We want more of this involvement, we want more of that voice, more of that understanding and what all that looks like. And that's really what's driven us as a part of this process over the last several months. So.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you speak into your mic a
Yes,
little
I'm so
better?
sorry. Yep.
And maybe speak
Apologize.
just a little slower.
I will,
Thank you.
absolutely. Yep.
So was there one comment that stood out among all the other comments that you didn't expect to hear, or were you expecting to hear everything you heard? Was there something that came out that you said, well, I never thought of that particular issue?
I will go back to my notes and check. I'm sure I highlighted something as I was going through, but honestly, in general, it was things that I expected to hear.
Well, that's good.
From a big picture standpoint. It was good to hear the specific concerns, because no two buildings are the same. We want to be able to hear what does that look like at Elon Elementary versus Madison Heights versus Manellison. So having that perspective, I think, was important. But there was nothing that really rocked me back in any of those meetings. It was me nodding my head like, I completely understand where you're coming from.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yep, for sure.
Board, anything else? So, Mr. Neighbors, I will say, listening to some of the comments, that communication up the chain to you is as valuable as the communication down the chain to everyone else. And everyone working together with that common goal. And it's not just, well, Mr. Neighbors is here, he's going to tell us what to do or fix all of our problems. It's everybody working together. So thank you for looking at that.
Well, I appreciate that. We're going to continue to endeavor to be that way, not a one-time thing. We're going to get back out and make sure what we're doing now still has us on the right track.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm going to hand this over to Dr. Wells to talk a little bit about cut scores.
So, cut scores. As I've spoken to some of y'all offline, the state is going to make changes to the cut scores this year. The board has approved those changes. They've already approved the cut score changes. The question now is when will implementation take place? They meet on October 23rd to discuss that and discuss the implementation and how it's going to roll out. And I'll talk about that as we go through it. But first, I want to go through the timeline. So from the VDA, this is from the Department of Education, that they had about 230 subject matter experts, and they started meeting in April and May of this year. They went through a standard training committee training. The committee members went through a standard training. They did that in June of this year. And also in June, the committee members kind of looked at what type of statistical analysis they will use to determine the test scores. So I'm going to read this because I just need to read this part. Committee members use the ID matching method. And I'm not a statistics person, so I couldn't tell you what the ID matching method is, to determine the value of a question, from basically looking at how we score students from a basic to proficient to advanced. And this transition becomes the cut score. So they went through it. They're going to use a different type of analysis to determine the value of the question and how that in turn makes a question a basic question or a more advanced question. And also how to determine cut scores. In June, again, they also recommended the cut scores. They went to the Board of Education in August, and at the August board meeting, and it was passed in September, and now they're going to look at how we're going to get this implemented moving forward. Some of their justifications for this, they looked at minimum scores, a 0 to 600 scale is proficiency set at 400, looking at mastery of outdated standards. They felt they had to revise the cut scores to get higher proficiency among our students, especially in math and English, on the math and English standards. They want to align to national benchmarks. One thing you'll hear them say a lot is they wanted to use the NAEP assessment, basically line, and that's kind of what they looked at for math and reading, was that where does NAEP score in relation to this and how does that work for us? And so they're using that was part of their decision-making process, and then also they want to make us more competitiveness amongst the state and lead to a stronger workforce and students leaving more prepared for work, for life after school. So on that, just so you know that there are lots of things there that went into this. I can tell you that very few people sitting in my seat were asked to participate in any of this. And so we really didn't start hearing about this and the cut score changes until August. And so that's when we first started hearing about the cut scores possibly being changed, and again, it was passed in September. So I want to show you the cut scores, and this is basically what it's going to be. This is what was approved by the Board of Education last month. And you can see that for the readings at the top, you can see to pass the test, instead of a 400 being a passing score, a 444 for third grade, et cetera. Reading course at the high school, a 479 is what was required to pass the test, to be at the proficient level. In math, again, the 443 up to a 453 for math to be at that proficient level. Again, the one thing you can say about this, if we go to that scale, we're comparing one-to-one. I don't know if it's going to be a one-to-one comparison now because that ID method may change the weight values of questions a little bit. So it might not be a true one-to-one measure if we do a comparison of this year's scores to next year's scores, which I'll show you here in a second. But it is a big change for us, going from, for those two content areas, 400 not being the line, which is what it's been since 1998. So everybody's kind of come through this with a lot of us, not many of us, or a few of us have been around before 1998, not many, are still around. So it's a big change for those of us who have been doing this that long. But having that 450 to a 450 to a 479 being the cut, being that line, is going to be a change. Again, some things for us that you need to think about with this. The state is looking, they are going to add or propose to add a category called approaching. So if you look between basic and proficient, they want to add a column called approaching. And that will be in effect, it depends on if they do a 4-year rollout or a 5-year rollout. That's another thing I'll hit in a second, but maybe we're proposing, what the state has been hearing, is do this over a 4-year to a 5-year time period. Don't come in this spring and say it's going to be a 444, okay? Do a rollout, so it's going to be a gradual increase over 4 or 5 years. The State Board of Ed needs to, that's the recommendation that's on their talking points for them to discuss in October. But also adding that column in there called approaching. And if you're in that approaching column, then you would be considered passing the test. It will count as a pass for us as far as rating scales and stuff like that. After a 4 or 5 year time period, though, those will be the scores. Okay, that's what scores are going to go to, as what was passed in September. Question, I know that might be confusing, so any questions?
Board.
Mr. Terry?
Sir. Yes, sir.
So that's proposed to put in that extra column.
Correct, yes,
And
sir.
so if it's a 4-year or 5-year, that column will stay in until
Right.
that's completed.
And the numbers would increase each year, the cut
To
score.
strive toward the goal.
Like this year it could be a 400, next year it could be a 410, the following year it could be a 420 to get up to whatever that line is depending on the test.
Understand. Okay, great. Thank you.
Ms. Justice?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Wells. In the past, did we always have 4 levels?
We always have below basic, basic, proficient.
Okay.
Yes, in advance.
So that's the same?
Yes.
And I believe when we had our meeting yesterday, there was the possibility that the change, basically in the SOL, the value of the questions would make it so proficient is 444, but essentially it's measuring the same level as the 400. So we don't know which way they're going to
Correct.
go. And theoretically, this does draw our student achievement higher.
Yes.
It just can be a shock to a system, like going, like if you've been spending your money, you get each month, basically on what's there, and then you get a budget, and now your dine-out budget is this, you can feel like, man, I don't have any money. Well, it's going in different places, and it can hurt
Yeah.
in the short term. Thank you.
Okay. Board, anything else?
So the state did an analysis of what the impact would be. So this is the impact across the state for reading. And anything that is in the orange or blue is not passing. So as you look at grade 3, you see roughly 60% would not pass based on current scores. The same thing for grade 4, 5. When you get to grade 6, it goes into the 58 percentile, 58. Grade 7, again, around 60 and so forth. So they anticipate, based off the changes next year, that's how many students, if you did that apples to apples comparison, would not pass. So you're looking at 37% pass rates up to 41 to 45% pass rates. That means you're going to have failure rates of 50 to 60% compared. So that's what the state's anticipated based off the change. But again, the thing to remember here, though, is even if you score below basic or basic with the new analysis, new system that Mr. Neighbors discussed, the school's still getting points, even though they're not getting that 1 point. They might get a 0.75 or a 0.25 as opposed to 1 or a 1.25. It's just, we're really changing the whole way we've done accountability. And it's just changing everything. So it's going to take time for people to get used to that. It's going to take time for me not to say we're accredited when we're talking about accountability, because that's how we've been for the past 30 years. So just understand that we know there's going to be some difficulty with how it's changing, but these are what the state's projecting it would be on reading, and then you can see the same thing here for math. Again, you can see the projection rates there. Anything below the bar would not be passing. Okay.
Dr. Wells,
Sir?
how does that take into account what we just said, is that even the 444 is essentially weighted back to the original 400?
Well,
So if you're weighting it back, then the same
those-
level of students should pass.
well, those numbers are staying, 444 is 444. That's going to be the pass rate. That's going to be the cut score regardless. I was on a webinar today with the state, and what they were saying was instead of counting the number of questions you have to get right, changing that formula to get down to a 400, they went ahead and made it so you had to get the 444. But there will be more rigor, and it will be more, cause students to have to rise to the occasion. You have to get more right to pass, and regardless of what that 400 is. What I don't know is how that ID method is going to rate questions. I just don't know that, and I haven't had enough input to understand that yet. Hopefully I will, and I can share it with you.
And the impact data here, the same thing we did with our data, is apples to apples. And maybe you could say worst case scenario. So if there is no recalculation or no softening of that expectation anyway, this is what the data would look like. And the state kind of took that approach. We did the same thing with some of our following sites.
Right, but that's misleading. If in fact they are going to weight it,
That does.
right?
Yeah.
It makes it seem like it's going to be worse than it is, and I want to make sure we point that out to people.
Absolutely. And
Yes,
that, again, I'll say, I know we mentioned earlier, that's why we're eagerly awaiting that rollout here at the end of the month of what does implementation actually look like. Would have been nice to have that in conjunction with the cut scores being passed, for sure.
Yeah. So what the superintendents have been asking to do a 0 year this year versus starting testing this spring. One of the concerns is some schools on that 4x4 block. So you could have students at the high school, if you're on 4x4, take the SOL test in December with a 400 being your cut score, and the same class in May be a 479 being the cut score. And how do you figure that? How do you explain that to the parents? Well, if you signed up for it first semester, you would have passed at a 400, but now I got a 479 to pass it, to be considered passing. So there's some questions there we have. There's some questions about how quick the rollout is and how things are going to work. So again, we're eagerly awaiting the Board of Education's decision, October 23rd, and as soon as I get something from them, I will share that with you. But right now, it's all speculation. There's a lot of things we're proposing, a lot of things they're considering, but again, all that's going to be brought to the Board of Ed on the 23rd for their vote. If you look at our projected impact, so if you look at just a 1-to-1 analysis of, if you just do the cut scores based on a 400 versus a 430 or 440, grade 3, you can see we dropped from 59 to a 27. Reading overall will be a 70% down to a 29% across all grade levels. Grade 11, EOC course, 80 down to a 24%. If it went in 1-to-1, based on where that 479 cut score is. Same for math, and you can see the numbers there. So I want to put this out so if it is a 1-to-1, we're not in shock, right? But also know that we're aware, we're working through this, we're working with our schools. What I want our teachers and our staff to know is, regardless of this, right, regardless of whatever change that is there, we need to do what they know is best for kids and what's best for our building and best for our students. So regardless of anything happens at the state, we can't control that. I have no control over what that cut score is. What we do have control over is how we approach it and how we teach our kids and how we support our students. And that's what we need to do regardless of what those numbers do. We need to make sure we're taking care of our kids and we're taking care of our teachers, and they know we're supporting them in this process. So that's the bottom line here. I can't control that, so I can't really worry about what's out of my control. Yes, we do want to improve performance and we want our kids to grow, but we need to understand that this is a change and it's going to take time for people to adjust, but we want to support our teachers and make sure our teachers are supporting our kids. Okay.
All right, and as the last piece here, and kind of as a caveat, just wanted to understand this new framework a little bit better. We did the work of using these new cut scores and put some of that data in just to see what the impact of the framework scores would be. We provided that comparison to the board. You'll notice there's a bit of a stop loss, even with some of those dramatic drops in percentages that we saw. The framework scores are certainly still impacted, but I was anticipating a little bit more. This was useful for me to understand the math part of it a little bit better. So at the end of the day, this is another piece we're using as we're thinking about what this looks like going forward, understanding the board is going to give us more information at the end of the month. There really is that eye too. They're looking at all these different components, not just that performance on the SOL. Still very important, but not the whole ball game, as it were. So I thought this was a good thing to be able to see, even with some of those precipitous drops of the percentages. The framework scores still held a little bit stronger than I expected them to, but we wanted to be able to show that to the board.
And we're basically looking at a 5 to 6 point drop if you did a 1-to-1 from those results. So if you're at 90% this year, you'll be at 85 if you did the new scores.
Okay.
Yep.
Questions on that?
Mr. Terry?
Yes, ma'am.
So if provided we don't, that our pace doesn't increase, which frequently when we're in high school and we were choosing our classes and we knew one teacher had a bell curve and one was a 94 for an A, it affected how we approached our classes and our work. And so when looking at the new cut scores and considering there was a much smaller drop than might have been anticipated when you looked at the reading by itself, is part of that because every student is being counted? And so even though, so all students have a weight, and so even though it looked like a much more drastic fall because of how inclusive they're being with the data in students, it's not as sharp.
And you look at that, you look at the growth. And before, the only way you got growth in the previous models was you had to fail the test this year and pass it next year, and they gave you growth. Now, if you move a band, you can get growth. So you could have passed it with a 450 this year, but get a 525 in the corresponding one the following year, you'll get growth. So instead of being a 1, you'll get a 1.25. So that helps too, but also the 0.25s and 0.75s do add up. At the high school, the 3 E's, that was what, I think 15% of
a little more.
The math. So those all add up too. Our graduation rates are important at the high school level. Having a graduation rate being high gives us a lot of credit there too. So all those things add up. It's not just strictly the SOL test.
Right. And again, from a calculation standpoint, how the framework works, so EOC reading at the high school going from 80% down to 24%. That 56%, that group of students is represented, they moved from a 1.0 to a 0.75 in the framework score. So there's a little bit of a mitigated effect with that, which I think is good. I think it's representative that we are doing more than just that one test in that one subject area. But again, we've got to wait to see what we have at the end of the month to know what that ultimate effect is going to be.
And I believe in our conversation yesterday, we talked about in the readiness one, the 3 E's, that having more students take ASVAB, or having that as an option doesn't mean they're going into the military, but we get more points in that readiness piece, and our students get a greater exposure to aptitude and in just preparing for that test gives our students a greater level of proficiency as well.
The ASVAB is a very good test to consider in your aptitude and what areas you want to go into. It really is better than most other indicators we get for CTE by taking that test. It gives us an idea of the student's strengths. And so it's a really good measure of that. But there's nothing that says you have to be ready for the military or anything else to take the ASVAB, but it is a good indicator of strengths of students to know which direction they should go.
Yeah. And one more note I wanted to make, because growth had come up a couple of times, the system that the state is using for this current calculation, this is the first and last time that'll be utilized for these calculations. They have an RFP out now. We're hoping to know more towards the end of the year into January what that new system will look like. I am glad for that, and the hopes that we'll understand a little bit better how those calculations work and give ourselves a little more of an advantage with being able to calculate that for ourselves going forward. But we'll keep the board up to date as we get updates in that area.
In our meeting today, it was stated that they should have a decision by December. At the December board meeting, they should have an answer.
Board, anything else? Okay. Yeah, I agree. The DOE didn't call us and ask us what we thought about, changing the numbers or anything. But we all know that if we want to hit a higher number, we got to have a higher target. And so, when we move the goalpost, we have to adjust. So we're not trying to just get better numbers. We want better kids coming out. So thank you for all that you're doing.
Sir, thank you. All right, my last item this evening is our Math Textbook Review Committee. There is a memo at your place in board docs. I have Ms. Matheny give us a little information on that.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. As Mr. Nayer stated, you should have a memo at your place about our Math Textbook Review Committee. So tonight, I'd like to ask for a consensus so that we can move forward with that committee. And I would also like to invite a school board member to participate on that committee this year. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay. Board, any questions? Yes, ma'am. I see you looking.
Yes, sir. Mr. Terry, thank you, Ms. Matheny, Mrs. Wheeler. When I'm looking at the three choices here, are any of these ones that we are currently using?
Yes, ma'am. The one that we are currently using would be for the secondary. Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and geometry courses are using the Savvis and Vision. But the other options, the current adopted textbooks, are not on the approved list. So they would not be something that we could move forward with, just those.
We'd have to petition, basically present to VDOE for an approval of that.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, a question for you. What would it, from your perspective, what would the benefit be to sticking with our current program and doing that legwork to apply to the VDOE for our program to be accepted?
Well, in my opinion, one of the challenges that we have right now, especially at both elementary and secondary, is that we have multiple textbook publishers. And so it makes it difficult. For example, we have kindergarten, second grade, and third grade using one publisher, first grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade using another publisher, 6 through 8 using a different publisher, and then Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry using something different. And so that is something that our teachers have really struggled with, the consistency between the publishers, because there's not that vertical alignment there with the publisher themselves. And then also with the new rigorous 2023 math standards, our publishers are not as much aligned to the new standards as these new publishers would be.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you need approval of the proposed committee?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you need a motion, or is that just a consensus? Okay. Board, any objections to what's listed here? Okay. Ms. Matheny, I know you've asked for a school board member to be on it. If you don't mind, I would like to be able to text everybody, and not, since we have two members who are not here tonight, I'll send a text out to everybody. Once I hear back from everybody, then I will send you a message.
That's perfect, and
Okay.
I would appreciate anybody's willingness to serve on math committee.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Chair. That was all from me this evening.
Yep.
All right, moving on to administrative services. First, we have some updates on the construction project. So just a couple things. The field house is just about complete. We should have our CO. Hopefully, we're just waiting on our last inspection for looking at the welds for where the netting went. But other than that, all the little things have been complete. So that's that on the field house. And so we should be able to occupy that soon. Mr. Oakes is going to go through a lot of the construction project stuff. The good news, a couple of our rooms, the co-lab space, as well as the teacher's lounge. We've got the furniture in there, so we'll be using those soon. And then, of course, the 4 other classrooms, working on that. And the space in the old auditorium, you'll see the pictures. They are really rolling on that. We did have one little setback on the cafeteria equipment, which we can talk about here when Mr. Oakes is done.
All righty. So since the last meeting, the picture on the left is in the kitchen area. As you can see, then although picture none of the equipment had been installed yet. And the picture on the right is as of early this week, where all the equipment is in place. We still have 2 ovens that came in earlier this week that they're going to be installing tomorrow, and that will hopefully complete the kitchen equipment install itself. And this is just another shot looking back over the preparation area. On the far left side, you can see the hood system. That brown cardboard box you see it into the sink and preparation line, that's one of the 2 ovens they still have to install tomorrow. The picture on the left here is the freezer. That was a month ago. And this is the picture earlier this week. Pretty much fully stocked. We also transported all the frozen food that we took out of the old freezer prior to demo. That my staff and I moved to Amherst Elementary and to Amherst Middle School. That's all been brought back over too. So pretty much ready to go. The picture on the left is the serving area. The picture on the right, picture on the left is the serving area a month ago. The serving area on the right earlier this week, with all the equipment in place. And the way you're looking to get you orientated is standing where the roll-up door is, going out into the cafeteria, looking back into the serving area, and the far back part of the picture is the kitchen area. And so basically this will be somewhat like a cafeteria style serving area, if you will. It won't be a serving line like we used to have in the past. And the students will come in on the left and right side of the picture, come in, sort of roll around through the middle. Both lines will pretty much be the same. And then when they come out, coming back towards you, in front of the screen, you can see the milk boxes in place on the left and right, where the plans are laying on the left, milk box there. And then at the register tables right here on the left and right side of the picture, and exit out to go eat lunch. Again, a lot of tile work's been going on in the last month. Is just another picture of the serving area in recent weeks. And this, of course, is looking from the cafeteria back into the serving area on the left side of the picture there. That was taken yesterday. And the picture on the right is looking from the serving area back into the cafeteria. As you can see, the roll-up doors in place now. The tile's done. So a lot of finishing work is getting completed there. And as far as the serving equipment, we can, like I said, we've had a few issues from a shipment. Nothing that the contractor did as a vendor that's held us up a little bit in that, but we're trying to get some workarounds on that as we go through the process and go from there. The collaborative lab and the teacher workspace. The collab picture is on the left. You can see the glass doors out into the hallway that goes back toward the cafeteria, and then the teacher's workspace is on the right. All that furniture has come in the last couple of weeks as well. As we move forward, as Dr. Hoden mentioned, the classrooms and offices is in the old auditorium, if you will. 3 classrooms in there. The picture on the left is one of the classrooms looking from the door frame into the picture on the left is an office space in there. So we were actually standing about the middle of the old auditorium on the wall. That left wall is the wall that goes down to the CTE wing. And to sort of get you oriented in there. The picture on the right is actually standing in and looking toward the back of the old auditorium where the hallway is, in the main hallway where the ticket booth used to be. So there'll be a hallway coming down the middle and dividing those two areas up. These pictures are the nursing lab. They installed the window frame today. So the picture on the left, you're looking from the lab area itself, facing back toward the classroom. That opening where you see between the scaffolding is the classroom. As you see the picture on the right-hand side is the framing for the window that goes in there. So you'll be able to see from the classroom into the lab itself. And all that CMU has been laid in the last 2.5 weeks. Cosmetology is also progressing. All the demo work is done. All the plumbing and the floor is done. The floor has been re-poured with fresh concrete. And you can see all the HVAC, mechanical equipment, and electrical lines and stuff that are going on in the ceiling. And so that's progressing as well. As Dr. Hoden mentioned, the field house has come along. We've got the road paved back there, lines on it, parking lots paved. They've been in this week back grading against the edge of the pavement. So all that is pretty much done and tied up, in addition to the handicap signs, the handicap markings, and those type of things are in place as well. In addition to that, the agriculture lab, this is where the 4 Spanish classes used to be, all 3 classrooms used to be. And this is the area, as you come up Lancer Lane, look to your left, the little parking lot on the left-hand side, which has dumpsters in it now, in the last few weeks since our last meeting. We moved the classes from the Spanish classrooms into their new classrooms, and about a week and a half later, they start demoing. Everything's completely gone. You can see the painted lines on the floor. That would be for water lines and those type of things, which, talking to the contractor, I believe they'll be coming in possibly in the middle of next week to demo the floor up, put the plumbing in the floor. They've already done a lot of plumbing up above in the ceiling down to the fixtures on the wall as well. So the next steps is complete the kitchen and serving lines, finish the CMU walls in the, I see a little, begin the paint area in the old auditorium. And I think that painting should start maybe middle to later next week. They'll be finished. All the concrete walls will come in and start sealing, actually start painting and start finishing that area as well. And then, of course, continue construction on the cosmetology lab as well. So, any questions? A lot of progression. Still got a ways to go. We're hoping to be serving, as you know, the sandwiches and stuff like that. The cafeteria staff at high school deserves tremendous kudos. Since the beginning of school, they have been making, part of the staff has been divided up. They've been making sandwiches at Amherst Elementary and Amherst Middle School, and then at Central, and then bringing that stuff back to the high school. So it's a lot of extra work on their part, and they have been exceptionally well to handle that stuff. Hopefully, when the kids come back from fall break next Wednesday, we'll be doing all the preparation work at the high school itself. So we're unfortunately still serving sandwiches, but at the same time, we're bringing the staff back in and cutting out that extra work and having it in place at the high school if everything goes right over the next few days and stuff. And then hopefully within the next couple weeks, we'll have the serving line hooked up and ready to go on that aspect as well. So, any questions?
Board, any questions?
Mr. Terry?
Yes, sir.
All right, what about the 30 amp heating tables? What's up with those?
Okay, so the problem that originated was, as we went to the root cause of this thing, between 2024 and 2025, when the equipment was ordered and then when it was manufactured and shipped, the federal government changed the refrigerant requirements in those aspects. Unfortunately, the vendor did not pick up on those changes based upon our order. So when they shipped the equipment that we received on site, the equipment, with the refrigerant changes, it required a higher amperage motor. So the specs that were, the plan was based off of what the electrical contractor here and everything had. They installed all that electrical requirements as it was when it was set forth. Since the refrigerant requirements changed and the amperage went up, they started unpacking this stuff, and they're like, the amperage, the wire we have is not big enough. Do we have enough capacity in the panel? Those type of things. So that's what we're working on now, and that's where the hiccup was. So a couple of alternatives we're looking at is we've been trying to figure out how we can start getting warm food served. So right now we have, in the existing equipment, we have 23 bays, well-bay serving equipment. We have 3 5-bay wells, where the food is placed in, the students pick it up. We have 3 of those, one in the middle, 2 on each side, and then we also have 2 4-bays. So we have a total of 23 serving wells in this serving equipment. So one of the things we're trying to do is make sure we have enough capacity. We have the electrical engineers review this as well, make sure we have enough capacity in our panel with this, but also to make sure that we're not maxing out the panel. So we don't want to start up the serving area and max out electrical panel in the system right off the bat and not have any room to expand down the road if we have another need coming into place. So we're making sure that all this is going to fall into place. So what we're looking at doing is trying to get these 2 4-well serving lines heated up, wired up and heated up. I think we have enough capacity on that. And then on the 5 wells, do we go back to 4 wells? We've been talking to Ms. Klein, who's in charge of child nutrition. Is she okay if we switch those out with 4 wells versus the 5 and those type of things? So we're trying to make sure we get all the bases covered and make sure we have the solution that's going to be the best for us long term, and not just make a quick decision that's going to bite us on the long run.
And before we do anything, we have an electrical engineer coming in to kind of assess and help us do that, while Clue with Jamerson Lewis is kind of working with the company to see some other fixes. So we have a couple different options going on at the same time.
And as far as, I know we're talking about power and capacity and what our amp draw is in our power cabinet. You're saying that it's requiring more amperage because of the refrigerant, so obviously the compressor. So we're talking cold service, right?
These serving wells do cold and hot. They do.
Okay.
They are dual purpose.
All right.
So like a 5-well, if you want it to do cold, you do all cold. If you want the 4 wells to do hot, you do them all hot. So they have the capacity to do either one. Each one of the pieces of equipment can do either.
And then one thing that wasn't in the picture yet, which we're working on, there'll be 5 monitors above there, so that when the kids come in, the students come in, they'll be able to see on the monitor what is at what station, so they'll be able to go to the different stations. So that's why the difference in the cold and the hot.
Right. Okay. So we're working on a solution, and
We are. It involves obviously various different parties, and the main one I think right now is the electrical engineer. Once they find out what the root cause was, based on the vendors, and we just want to make sure, can we do it? Do we add in a sub panel so we do have capacity down the road? And we just want to make sure we make the right decisions. And talking to Ms. Klein, we think we have the ability to start serving warm food quicker, hopefully by the end of the month. But of course, a lot of this depends on having all the kitchen equipment in place, which those 2 last ovens just came in early this week. They're getting installed tomorrow. Having the company come in and hook all that stuff up, verify it is correct. But we also have the help to have the health inspector inspect everything before we can train our folks. So all that is into play, and we're getting those worked out as far as, over the next week to 10 days. The contractors, they know what our expectations are. They know our disappointments. Again, it's not the fault of Jamerson Lewis. It's the fault of the vendor itself out in Indiana and the manufacturer of the equipment.
all right. And I'm at the point now where we take one of those electric buses and park it over there, plug it in, use it to power.
It works like that.
Just saying.
Yeah, so it's all there, ready to go. Obviously got to hook up electrical stuff, and everything's pulled to the junction boxes in that area. And the electricians had not pulled the wire from the junction boxes to the equipment for this particular reason, to just make sure everything was right before they went too far. And that's just a small task.
That's a good thing that they didn't go all the way.
Right, and if we do,
got to pull bigger wire.
Right, and if we do, it's a possibility to have to run more pipe and those type of things. So it's unfortunately a lot of things here at the last minute that no one was expecting, but
Understand.
it's construction.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Board, any other questions? Thank you, sir. Next.
All right, moving on. Show them on here. We have, just wanted to let you know that back in the late summer, right before school started, we applied for $250,000 with a school security grant. We were awarded about $183,000. So we are working on spending that. Some of that thing will work on improved safety and security, and you'll be hearing more about that. Just wanted to let you know that we got that.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, next, I'm bringing you as a first read policy JHC, which is the one with telehealth. So what we have done in speaking with members of the board, made it our own and put in the things that are related directly to the memo I sent you, we discussed last month when you approved the telehealth contract. So we have put those items into the policy. What I think would be prudent to do would be for us also to have a regulation that goes with the policy, that goes into more depth as far as specifics to support the policy. But this is, again, a first read. I ask you to take a look at it over the month. Reach out if you have any questions, and then we can bring it back next month for approval. But again, this is one of the telehealth services, mental health, and we tried to, again, take the information I shared with you last month and put that into the policy. So this is not the VSBA policy. This is what we have done to meet the needs of our kids and our school system, as opposed to using the VSBA policy.
Okay. Thank you. Next.
All right, 8.03, we have for you the student suspensions for September. Ms. Ligon called me today with several questions, and I was able to answer those for her. So, any others? All right, 8.04, we have, you have a memo for the best lab data. And Dr. Smith's unavailable tonight. He had a death in the family, but if you look at that, it's fairly, self-explanatory, interesting data. Tuesday is the most used day, and the most used times are 12 p.m., 8 a.m., which lunchtime and first thing in the morning. And then it looks like our middle schools, 7th grade, are the most using that the most the last little bit here, the last 6 weeks. So if you have any questions on that, I'll do my best to answer that. But again, that was compiled by Dr. Smith.
Okay. Board, any questions? Okay. Thank you,
All
sir.
right, thank you. That's it for me, sir.
Next. 9.
Next we go to Ms. Laconich in Finance.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Before you tonight are your September financial reports. So we have completed the first quarter of our fiscal year. It's still early on. I don't really have any concerns to report. I do want to mention 2 items. One, when you look at the child nutrition revenue and expenditure reports, I've told you in the past it's normal to see the expenditures exceed the revenue because it is a reimbursable model. If you looked at the reports this month, it was probably a little shocking, and that is because we have the purchase of the cafeteria equipment that's at the high school. And if you recall back at the March board meeting, that was when it was presented to you, the child nutrition's excess balance corrective action plan, and they had a plan to spend down the amount. They're allowed to have 3 months of operating expenditures. And at the time, they were exceeding over 7 months. So they had a plan to spend it down, and that this equipment is part of it. So this is going to continue to show on the reports. Just know that of the expenditures, $832,000 of that is the cafeteria equipment, and you will not see the revenue show up on the report because it is using the prior year fund balance. So I did want to point that out. The second thing I wanted to point out was just the ADM. If you remember, during the budget season, our ADM was projected to go down 97.65 students, and that's what we built the budget on. And if you look at the current September ADM report, it's standing at 2659. So that is 43.75 students more, which is a great position to be in, considering last year at this time we were looking at a shortfall of like 15. And of course that impacts our revenue. Our CISNA students also have increased from last year, and that provides additional revenue. However, that is sped revenue that does have restrictions on it. So again, nothing is concrete until that March ADM, but these numbers are promising, and I just wanted to note those 2 items, but I'll take any questions that you have on these reports.
Board, any questions for Ms. Laconich? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next we'll have Mr. Gallagher of Human Resources.
All right, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, the first item for Human Resources this evening is this month's iteration of the vacancy memo. So I'll let you review that, and I'll take any questions.
Board, any questions? Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right, and next up, it's that time of year again where we get to start building and preparing our school calendar for the 26-27 school year. So in order to do that, we have to gather input from all stakeholders to identify priorities. And in doing that, we have established a school calendar committee. That committee that represents stakeholders from across all different positions throughout the division meets on October 20th at 3:15 as a first initial meeting, and I would invite anyone interested from the board to join that committee. And so I'll throw that out there along with the previous committee request. That is obviously a pretty important committee to make sure that we balance priorities and meet the needs of not only the school system but all stakeholders.
I will add that to my text.
Thank you, sir. And that's all I have, and I'll shift over. Dr. Rose.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and board members. You have in front of you the recent analysis from our state interviews that were conducted in the spring of 2025, earlier this year. This was with 20 employees, and this was a voluntary interview that was conducted by me, one-on-one, face-to-face, with individuals in our CTE Fine Arts program and administrators. The breakdown of the data shows a lot of positive things in that there was a great appreciation for the supportive leadership that was demonstrated and the responsiveness and having collaborative relationships, but there also presents opportunities. Some of those Mr. Neighbors even lend into with his presentation on the instructional component of how they are being responsive to some of the feedback that has been gleaned from the spring to create better collaboration among central office as well as teachers right there in the classroom and administrative supports. And that was one of the things that really keyed out. They want to have that type of support working alongside individuals on a regular basis. Also, the visibility, being in the building, being present, not just for with a laptop or being an evaluation or being, in their words, judgmental, but being seen as a colleague, valuing their position, valuing their expertise, and being supportive in a way that they can receive and really feel like they're making change to improve their practice. So if you have any questions about the information, I'll be glad to answer that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, nothing big. I really did just take probably more time than normal just reading over these and looking into it. And I still sometimes find it difficult to understand why our people think there's not a collaboration going on between central office and other people. Every night that we're here, that's pretty much 40% of what we hear, at least what I'm hearing. That you're in the buildings, someone is in the building, someone is collaborating, someone is helping. And so I don't know how that gets lost. And then I was looking just for myself on board visibility. I can't imagine more consistent school board presence in the building. And now, we're not to be there walking the halls and judging and evaluating classroom activity. But I believe that let me speak for myself. I believe that we are there when we can be, open houses, back-to-school events, or surely sporting events, touring buildings, new buildings, old buildings. I don't know what else a board member is supposed to do. And I mean, I don't want you to ask them that, but it interests me. And it also interests me with how much more you guys can be in the school and still do your job here. We have, I mean, I'm on both sides of that point, my own job. I make rounds to be visible, but my people know that I have a responsibility to take care of business in my own office so I can come out and do what they need to do. So the word collaboration and support, it seems to me, from what we hear on every second Thursday of the month, there's surely support being given. But just in a quick second, since we're in late hour, where do you feel that the lack of support is? Not the school board, we deal with that differently.
I think it comes with how they perceive support, like perception of how we interpret they want support and then their reality of how they want to receive it. And that comes with that communication piece. One person even said, I'd rather you just come in the building and say, what's going on? What do you need help with? And start the conversation from there instead of me coming in assuming where they need assistance and being more insightful from their viewpoint of where they would like to have assistance. And I think we're going in the right direction with that. Because remember, these are individuals that are staying with us. So a good majority felt that they were being heard, that they were being supported, that they do have the ear of the administration and central office, and that they see you in the building. So, you know, you give yourself grace and understanding, and I appreciate what you said, Ms. Liggins, about your availability. You're in as much as possible, realizing that we can't be in every day. We have jobs that we have to do up here, but to just be intentional about making that time without the caveat of being there in an evaluatory position or judgmental position, just being intentional about that.
No, I appreciate the comments. I'm not by no means upset. I was just questioning. It's perception, probably. You know, different people think differently when you arrive of what your intention is, you know. But from what I hear here and what I've observed through the years, Amherst County probably goes overboard. I'm telling you, because I've been around. They go overboard in trying to help. I don't think that we've ever said we are not going to help you unless I missed something from the central office. But we want everybody to be happy. I'll end on that. We want people to be happy, but we also, well, evaluations are like whatever you want to say. But from my standpoint, I believe, speaking for me, the board tries to do as best we can to be as involved in a school system that we can be without going over the top. I said this one time before, and I know it's a new day and a new board, but at one period in time, they didn't want us in there. While the board members nosing around, I didn't pay attention to it, I kept going. But I'm just saying that you can't have this thing both ways. And so we kind of go with the recommendation of the superintendent. When there's a need for us to go visit, we're surely there. But as far as just going by every day, I don't think that I'm going to start to do that. That's all I had to say about it.
Ms. Ligon, I will add to that, you know, and we kind of hit on it with Mr. Neighbors earlier. You know, I don't want it to ever be seen that, you know, oh, Mr. Terry's here, there must be a problem. That I want, you know, we're here to help. We're here to, if there's a problem, I don't mind being there, but I want to be there for the good stuff too. So, and to Ms. Ligon's point, everybody can't be everywhere at the same time. So we're spread as thin as we can be. But when you go in, when I go in, when others go in, it's not just when there's problems. So all working together. Thank you. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Next, I just wanted to give you an update. The Amherst Leadership Academy Cohort 3 is underway. We've had our one kickoff session last month, and we will have another full day with these individuals tomorrow. They are a group of, I won't say aspiring leaders, because they're already leaders in their own right, taking on leadership positions in the building, as well as sometimes on division level committees. They are a truly engaging group. They are showing a lot of honesty and vulnerability. We make it a safe space so that they can really grapple with some scenarios and some situational pieces that many may not have ever been involved in. Most of them are, I think all of them are still practicing in the classroom. We have 3 counselors and 3 specialists and 2 counselors. So we're really challenging them in new ways to kind of stretch their leadership abilities so they can really see the scope of where they want to take their journey with leadership. And Mr. Neighbors, if you want to add anything to that.
We try not to play favorites with our cohort, but this has been a great group so far. I'm just excited to be working with them. And this is the first group we've had entirely made up of individuals that are still in that teaching role in the classroom. So that's brought another unique layer to it. And they've been highly engaged, literally every moment of our time with them. So very excited about the group.
And again, next month, we are going to be presenting the Amherst Leadership Academy at the Virginia School Board Association, talking about its inception, lessons learned along the way, and the future outcomes that we've been gaining from it so far, and also trajectory of where we want to see it to go.
Okay.
Questions?
Thank you, Matt. Any questions, board?
All right, I'm going to roll along. We have our next Sharing Our Strengths, a day of peer learning. This was initiated in February earlier this year. The request last year is that we do this earlier in the school year so that they have more time to really use the new strategies and skills that they're gaining during this time of learning with their peers. So that is why we're doing it on November 4th. We again offered the opportunity for our CTE, fine arts, school psychologists, library specialists, ITRTs to do shadowing experiences out in the community. And we actually have about 25 individuals that are going out to local museums. Some are going to Liberty, some businesses to actually learn more about their content, content expertise in order to bring back and create really unique and diverse learning experiences for our students. We have 33 sessions going on November 4th, being led by all our administrators are leading a session, as well as Dr. Wells, and teachers from across the division at various levels will be leading sessions. We added more for K2 as well as for our school counselors, and we even have a session on aspiring administrators. So that will be going on from 8 until 12 noon on November 4th at Amherst County High School.
You did it before. It was wonderful, wasn't it?
I did.
Didn't you have?
Yeah, we did this in
Thought it was
February.
great, yeah.
Yes, we're just doing it a little earlier this year. And any questions about that?
Questions, board? Oh, ma'am.
And lastly, we're going to showcase our wonderful medals. We've been doing some wonderful initiatives with wellness. And guess what we came home with? We brought home not the gold, but the purple and white. We had a wonderful time at the Virginia 4 and 10 miler over at EC Glass in Lynchburg. We had about 33 participants. It was a rainy, nasty day, but you could not tell from the energy of everybody trekking. I made it up the second hill. Didn't know if I was going to, but my partner kept pushing me. But we got a lot of feedback. I sent out a follow-up email afterwards, and the staff was really appreciative of offering that opportunity and gave some suggestions of what we can do in the spring. And we do plan on doing something in the spring, and we're just going to plan for better weather. We also got great feedback on the pop-up wellness event that was held at Amherst Middle School. We gave out free BP cups, blood pressure cups, to everyone that attended. They got healthy snacks, and they also got a little personalized wellness tip sent to them in our office mail. So we're trying to make this a routine to really be understanding, responsive, and thinking about the well-being of our staff so that we know they can't give their best unless they feel their best. So all ideas, if you have any ideas for wellness initiatives, we're always taking new ones, but we really think we have some good things going on for the remainder of the school year.
Board, anything? Dr. Rose, I was out there at the 10 mile. I did not run. I was there supporting, and you are right, the weather was absolutely nasty. It got bad there for a while. So more power to the ones who ran and walked that. So.
And at your place, you should have a shirt, the school, the division shirt that everybody wore, so you should have it at your place as well. And so, do you want me to pass that along?
Gotcha.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Moving on.
All right, Mr. Chair, members of the board, along the shirt line, you should have got your Virginia 10-miler, 4-miler shirt, but you also should have a polo up there that has Amherst County School Board on it, so I want y'all to have a little school board bling. If you want next month, you can wear that shirt, and I'll wear my polo shirt, and we can call it even and go from there. We'll talk about it. But you have those. I thought it would be good just to give you a polo when you go to meetings and stuff like that you could wear. That way you could use that to represent the school board when you're in those types of positions. One thing you're going to get, we've been looking at our class sizes as Mr. Condon stated. We do have increase in enrollment, which is good, but that also leads to some class size. So at Madison Heights, it's the only school right now. We talked about this last month. This is still sitting there. We're going to advertise for a position for a teacher for class size reduction, but we're also hoping we'll get somebody. But in the short term we don't, or in the short term, I'm going to get a memo to you next week regarding adding an instructional assistant at Madison Heights Elementary. This is for class size reduction, so you'll be getting that memo from me next week, and I can talk to you during the month, but I would like to go ahead and advertise for that position and get that in because it is a need at that school. But it does add an FTE, but we feel with the enrollment numbers, we're okay budget-wise. You're also going to get a memo from us regarding AEC. They have requested another instructional assistant there to help with some of the behaviors and things at AEC. And so this will be a general ed IA. They're requesting, so I'll get that to you as well. And again, I would ask that we move on that too. But if you want to wait until the end of the month into November board meeting or October 23rd when we do our budget conversation, maybe we could discuss it there and see where we are. But you'll get those two requests for positions moving forward here in the next week or two. Questions there?
Board, any questions for Dr. Wells?
Okay. The tailgate is coming up October 17th, staff tailgate. We had to cancel it. We canceled the one last time because the forecast was calling for rain. That was the prettiest day we had all week. But the next day it rained. But we have a tailgate coming up the 17th, which is next Friday. We'll start at 5 p.m. at the in front of the high school. You're welcome to become there, and we hope to see you there. We'll do the hot dogs, burgers again. It's a typical thing. Show up day, events were held at all schools at the end of September to get students involved and attend and be in attendance at school. Schools did some great events, but that was a good couple of days there. November is Bring Your Legislature to School Month, and we're looking at November 17th as the date. That'll be at Amherst County High School. The time is to be determined. We're looking around 9 o'clock, but I have to see when our legislators, what their schedule looks like too. If they say 9:30 or 10 will be better for them, then we'll make those adjustments. But right now, we're looking at November 17th at the high school. We're going to shoot for 9 o'clock, but we haven't locked that in yet. When we find out, we will get that to you, and we'll have our legislators there and discuss what issues we're seeing and what we think we need assistance with, but also show off some of the new facility there at the high school. The VSBA annual convention's coming up, and we hit this earlier, but if you could, tonight or tomorrow, if you know you're not going, could you let us know so we can go ahead and cancel the rooms? Because we're getting to that point where we need to start making those arrangements and decisions on that. So if you think you might be going, we'll keep your room. If you know you're not, if you could just let Ms. McNerney or myself know so we can just change those room arrangements around so we're not holding those rooms.
Do you want to poll us now to see?
If y'all feel that way now, that'd be fine. Yes?
Yeah, I've got to check with work, so.
I'm going.
Okay. Ms. Logan? Okay. Mr. Rossi? Okay. Thank
I'll
you.
let you know.
Okay. No. And we'll reach out to Ms. Thompson and to Ms. Saunders just to get their input, but thank you. That's what we can go ahead and make those changes.
I figured that would help.
Yeah, thank you. October 23rd, we have the Budget Priorities Work Session. I'll be here from 10 to 1. Again, that is to get your feedback and input as to what you want us to focus on into the budget season as we start preparing the budget. We'll be working with the county on that. I have seen nothing from the state. This is the new biennial budget coming up this year. I've heard nothing in my conversations with other superintendents or, again, the state regarding what they're anticipating coming out for pay increases. I think if they do raise this or what the budget's going to look like from the state, I think that will depend on November 4th as to what direction those things go. But we'll at least get your priorities in so we'll know where we need to be. I told Ms. Laconage, we'll kind of think about looking at it from a 3% pay increase. That'd be middle of the road of what the state's been doing the past few years and kind of get that number so you would know what that number would look like. But then we'll go from there. But again, let's just get your priorities. We'll meet with the county in November to talk about them with their priorities, and we'll go from there with that. Okay? Questions there?
Board, any questions?
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Terry. With that budget priority session coming up, how can we make opportunity for the stakeholders, other stakeholders, to have input or? So
typically this is the first year we've done the meeting for y'all. This is to get your priorities. And then typically in December, we have the open session or the public hearing, excuse me, thank you. My brain's not working, it's getting late. The public hearing for members of the community to give their input before we get too deep into the budget process. That'll be December, and we'll have a public hearing here at the school board meeting. And then March as well, 2 public hearings. If citizens want to give their input, they can send it to me and Ms. Laconage, and we'll be glad to put that into consideration.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Board, anything else?
Okay. VSBA. So we had some members receive some recognitions from the VSBA, and it should be at your place. So Ms. Ligon is distinction certificate. She got the starfish pin this year. And make sure I don't miss anybody. Ms. Justice received a certificate but no pin. Mr. Childers, certificate but no pin. And then I got something, so, all right. So it should be at your place. And then I believe that is it for my information, and I can turn back over to Mr. Chair.
Okay. So now we're at committee reports and individual school board members, so we'll lump those together. Our two phone members have had to drop off the call, so they will not be participating in this. But Mr. Rossi, if you would, kick it off for us, please.
Yeah, it's getting late, so I want to keep mine short and sweet. I do appreciate our student reps for coming out and for our students that were recognized and faculty that were recognized. It's important, and based on other conversations that have happened here tonight with changes that are happening, this showing up matters. You know, I know it's been Dr. Wells' push to get people to show up because it makes a difference. And now it matters even more because being there is part of what's going to keep the education system moving forward. They're going to raise the bar, and you don't have to jump over the goalpost. You just have to prove that you're going toward it. You're moving in that direction, and that counts. Before that didn't count as much. Now it matters even more to show up and to move forward. The goal's out there. They've raised the bar, which I think it needed to happen. You're not going to get better unless you try to go a little bit further, a little bit harder, push it a little bit more. We don't know what our limits are unless we push it. When was the last time it was changed? The bar, when was it changed?
Well, it was instituted in 1998 and had the 400 number has not
400.
changed.
400 has not changed. So, yeah, I think it's about time for a change. I think it's time to raise the bar and move us forward. And I know it's not going to be easy. It's going to be painful. And we've been warned about that for 10, 12 months now. So we know it's happening. We know it's going to happen. So I think it's going to be a good struggle for everybody, but I think it's going to move everybody in a positive direction. And I'm looking forward to the struggle and the challenges and overcoming those challenges. But most importantly, people show up. Students show up. And I think that's where we need to head. And that's all I have, Mr.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Justice.
Thank you, sir. Well, I appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Neighbors, to participate in the 2x2 yesterday. It was not quick. It was a deep dive, and I appreciate it. I appreciate all the work that y'all are doing. So as we all know, Central Virginia Gov School is in the process of hiring searching for a new director. The CVGS hiring committee met last Wednesday and reviewed application candidates. I am one of the two CVGS board members who's on the committee. There were 3 superintendents present for the presentation by the Lynchburg Human Resource Department of the packets. 3 qualified candidates were put forward, and in the next step is teaching demonstrations, likely at the end of the month, and in November, interviews will be held. And if all goes according to plan, in December, we will have a highly qualified director at CVGS. I am willing to be in the dunk tank, so you can contact me. I'm sure you'll get plenty of throwers. So I just wanted to bring up to the board, just a reminder, we've got VSBA legislative positions. Last year we had a pretty vigorous discussion about legislative positions that may not represent Amherst, and we just reviewed that if there are legislative positions that VSBA is lobbying for that Amherst doesn't feel represents them, that the board has to draft a letter. So perhaps we can put on the agenda for November a discussion of some sort, because Ms. Ligon's going to be going there pretty soon. And if the board wants to do something, she needs to have time. So, I think of rigorous standards. I think of cut scores. And one of the things I've heard from parents steady for the last 4 years has been, our kids need to have a higher standard, and it needs to have been yesterday. So I can see how this more rigorous change can be meeting that demand. Yet, at the same time, if I want to go from running a sprint, triathlon, or Spartan to a trifecta, I've got to change what I'm doing, or I'm just going to die, and I'm going to die in the beginning anyways. But if I can keep my eye on the prize of where I'm going, I can frame the deficits that show up in the beginning as, yes, this is where I need to put in more effort. Yes, this is what I need to do to get there. And so I hope that as parents, as students, as teachers, we can see this as the challenge it is, as the goalpost, and even if our score is, we achieved in proficient and we answered the same questions in the same number and it's below, that we can just keep making it better and saying, okay, this is what I did last year. I got, we'll say 10 out of 15 questions right. Okay, and it had a specific rating. But this year I got 11 out of 15 questions. The bar might have been changed, but I still moved forward. And just to frame it that way, one of the things I appreciated when I looked at how the committee came to a decision on this was the number of teachers. There was like 273 teachers and content experts, teachers who were content experts that were a part of this process. And I really appreciate that priority on the classroom instruction. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Ligon.
Okay, yeah, not too much going on, but it is a task ahead for the for what the Virginia Department of Education is requiring. So kudos and happy camping on that adventure, Mr. Neighbors. I know you can do it. And I agree, setting the bar high is good. We all want to do better all times. And some work is going to be required here because the metrics are changing just a little bit. So for those who are dealing with this on a day-to-day basis, we're here to help if we can. So thank you for all the great information. So everything else is quiet. I did go to back-to-school night at Emelon. We had a good time down there, and some other community things have been going on. So everything I think is very positive. I'm excited for the Apple Festival next week. I go there anyway, but having the children involved more, I think is a great thing for the county. So all is well, and you all can read the BSBA suggestions for legislative positions and talk about it in November.
Yeah.
And Laurel has not met since we saw last time.
Okay. Mr. Childress.
All right, well, I will keep my remarks short and sweet. I agree with the Apple Harvest Festival. It's great to get the kids involved in that, and so I'm excited about that. I will be going, but I will not volunteer to be dunked. You probably have a lot of people lined up to do that, but no. I did want to make a comment about the recognizing the staff members and how appreciative I am of that, and then just thinking about the words that you use to describe them. About making connections and kindness and a heart for students. Those are all key. And that's why we hope people get into education, because they want to make those connections. I have a personal story I've shared with many about a connection a teacher made with me when I was a kid and how it changed my pathway. And so it's extremely important for our staff members to do that. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay. So I don't have a committee. So I don't have a committee report. I want to start off by thanking Mr. Childress for carrying on last month when I was not able to be here. Sounds like you finished a lot quicker, so did a better job than I did tonight. So I have been able to attend a few things like the Eagle Eland Bash. I love that event for anybody who's ever been. And they had Fields of Faith at the high school last night. Absolutely wonderful event. So ever get a chance to participate in those, please do. I hate to say this, but I get some of my philosophy from a car commercial. Saw this the other night, and it said, whether you say you can or you can't, you're right. And I thought that really hit home, especially when you hear stuff about, hey, they've moved the goalpost on us. If we go, we can't do it, we're right, we can't do it. But I think we can, so it's a great thing. So philosophy by car commercial. And thanks for all the information, you guys. Love hearing what the students have to bring to us. Good work with all the health initiatives and that kind of stuff. It's great to see the school year kicking off with a bang. So, and with that,
I have to read something.
You have to read.
Oh, you have public comment first.
That's right, public comments first. So, is there anyone from the audience who would like to approach the board? Okay, and if you do and you spoke already, please have a different topic in mind. Okay.
Hey, y'all. Good evening. Sam Soger, District 2 dad. A few comments were made about it getting late, and maybe y'all have a closed session, but it's not that late. This is one of the quickest school board meetings I've been to in years, right? That's a great quote, Chair. There's a Henry Ford quote. Right. Believe in yourself. Well, I want to say on behalf of the town of Amherst, they had their meeting last night, to remind you, they would like me to remind you all, October 24th, 6 to 9 p.m. is the Town of Amherst Halloween event where all community members are invited out, churches, businesses, to set up a table. I'm gonna bring healthy snacks, is my plan. You know what I mean? Like candy, but maybe like a fruit juice sweetened, you know what I mean? Or like they use like beets or carrots in the coloring or something like that, you know what I mean? Still sugary, but that's a really fun event. So I encourage you all to get out to that event if you can. And if I have a couple minutes or one more minute, I would just like to say, get out and vote. Election day is coming up. There's school board elections, folks, and Board of Supervisors elections, and there's a lot of stuff up and down the ballot. And y'all, I'd love to put myself out there to y'all again. I'm on the ballot to represent Amherst, Bedford, and Nelson, House District 53. And if I were to go to Richmond, y'all, I want to represent all of your voices in Richmond, really honestly. And I think being honest and losing is better than winning with deceit. That's something that I have been thinking about a lot recently. And you know what? The students talked about the 9th grade play. That's really cool. I would like to have been at that 9th grade play. But as I look at the audience, I realize that once again, like, it's been pretty solid for 4 years that I've come to these meetings. I was working at Bonfire for a minute, also like managing the second stage farm market, and sometimes I couldn't get to all of these meetings. But I follow them pretty faithfully. And it's like Mr. Porter's here, but there's no one else in the audience, y'all, for the viewers at home, you know. And I think it's important for a parent or a guardian. You know, Mr. Porter's kids are grown, you know what I mean? But I'm a parent of the school system, and I'm not even the best at taking notes, y'all. You know, so I encourage other people to come in, and I don't come here for my own kid, you know what I mean? Well, I already take him to the library. I feel good about his education, you know, but I think that what it is his classmates, he may have classmates that don't have that. But may I just say one thing? Vote for me, don't vote for me, but just remember that each one of you has the spark of the divine inside of you, and please just let that light shine through you. Remember that at all times, because shining your light helps everyone else around you to shine their light. Peace and love.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the audience? Okay, seeing none. Dr. Wells?
Now pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A2 of the Code of Virginia, it is recommended the board convene a closed meeting for the following A2 student matters.
Okay. Have a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.